Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Hope everyone is doing well, having a fantastic day so far. Thank you so much for joining us for our first Handshake 101 of the fall semester, um, promptly titled Handshake 101, Get Ready for Fall Recruitment. Excited to have you all here, and we have we give some a couple minutes to give people some time to jump in. So while we're doing that, a quick note. I'm Min from Handshake. Really excited to have you all here today. A couple of quick notes before we get started with the panel. But kind of what to expect for today is we'll have about 30 minutes of tips and demonstrations. We'll save some time at the end for any questions from you all. So please drop any questions that you might have in the Q&A, and we'll be able to try and answer as much of that as possible for you all. Um, so we're here today because one, August is peak time for campus. I know some of you all might have started school already. Some of you all are getting ready to start the semester. And you're starting to hear a lot about career fairs, on-campus interviews, networking events, the whole nine yards. The goal today is if you're hoping to land a job or internship this fall, Handshake's got you, and we're here to support you in however we can. So after this event, our goal is that you walk away with the tools that you need throughout your job search, from planning and networking to applications and interviews. And then we'll also go through a quick kind of product demo to just show you all kind of the Handshake 101 of our platform. Yes, Christine, I saw you jumped in the chat. Would love to see where everyone is coming in from today. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, a fabulous colleague of mine here at Handshake. Some might say she is a celebrity in the education and career space. But we'll start off with a quick round of intro. Christine, so excited to have you here, a part of this. So, as a round of intro, Christine, can you share what you majored in, your first job post grad, and what you do today at Handshake?
Sure, Min, thanks so much for having me here today. I was a psychology major in undergrad. When I first graduated, I went straight through to grad school. And so my master's is in college student personnel or higher ed administration. And my first job out of school, once I finally decided to stop school, was I was the assistant director for the Student Activity Center at George Washington University, and I ran the new student orientation. So, if we have any GW students here in the audience today, I used to run your orientation program, which used to be called Colonial Inauguration, which I know has been rebranded now, but that was sort of my baby. And that was my first job. And so now here at Handshake, I'm the Chief Education Strategy Officer, which essentially means that I run our education side of the business. So we partner with over 1,600 universities and colleges today, many of whom are represented well in our attendees. And myself and my team, we help to establish those partnerships with your schools, and we actually power all of the operations for the career centers at many of your schools. They use our product to manage their appointments and their events and their workshops and many of the things that you participate in as students. So, very excited to be here with you today and to share any advice that can be helpful as you all do your job search.
Incredible. As I mentioned, Christine is a low-key, very high-key celebrity in the education space. So we're so excited to have her be able to join today. I'll also do a quick intro on my end. So I mentioned earlier, but my name is Min. I am a senior product marketing manager here at Handshake, and all that title means is my goal and my role and my main focus is to support you all as students in terms of getting up to speed with Handshake, making sure that you all know the ins and outs of Handshake, how to use it, and ultimately how to best leverage it for whatever your personal goals and professional goals are. Um, I majored in advertising at the University of Texas at Austin. So if there's anyone representing any Texas schools, shout out in the chat. And my first job post grad was I think I was working as a junior project manager at a creative agency in Austin. And we got to do a bunch of cool projects and eventually made my way to New York here. So yeah, excited to meet you all. Let's jump right in. Christine, prior to Handshake, you worked, as you mentioned, primarily in university career services. So you know a lot about what it takes to find a job, what
Mhm.
employers are looking for, and really how things have changed since, since when you've been in career services and even now to your current role.
Mhm.
Um, what can you give an overview of like why some industries consider fall their peak hiring season, and where a lot of them are probably are in their process right now, looking for potentially summer interns, entry level roles, things like that.
Sure. So there are certain industries that historically primarily do all of their recruiting in the fall. It is not all jobs, it is not all industries, it is just some of them. So historically, the industries that primarily recruit in the fall would be consulting, iBanking, investment banking, a lot of financial services. You see kind of big consulting, tech, some tech. You also tend to see traditionally some government, particularly the intelligence agencies, because the security clearance process takes so long. So those are historically what you kind of see. For this fall, you are still going to see a lot of the big banks, the big consulting firms, some tech firms do a lot of their recruiting in the fall. The reason many of those industries tend to do their recruiting in the fall is because they recruit in very large classes. So they're not just recruiting like one off. I have like one student, two students, even five students or 10 students. They're hiring hundreds of students, in some cases, thousands of students. And so they essentially do it earlier. So you could almost think of it as like almost like early decision for college. So they're trying to like get as many of their analyst class in early. And then they know by the spring where there might still be gaps or where they still need to fill some spots. And then they might do a little one-off hiring for those spots then. But they're going to try and bulk the majority of them early. For those industries that I just mentioned, they're also likely to do a lot of their summer internship hiring in the fall as well, very early. So if you're interested in some of those types of spaces, I would highly recommend that you get on Handshake. You should be looking at the events page. You need to make sure you are plugged in with your career center and you're not missing any info sessions, any career fairs, any employer panels. Like you should be going to all of those things so you're not missing out on the heavy recruiting period in the fall. If you're interested in other stuff, let's say you're interested in education, or maybe you're interested in more marketing or journalism or some of the creative fields, most of your hiring is actually going to happen in the spring. So I would use right now in the fall to do more of your networking, and you can do a little bit more of the recruiting activities later in the spring. So I'll stop there.
Love that. And you mentioned networking, and I know one of the things that I mentioned earlier is, we're in a period where certain schools have started kind of their semester. Other schools
Mhm.
are getting ready to start soon.
Yep.
And so, what are some of the ways that that everyone in this webinar can expect to see employers start to show up, whether it's on campus, online, for either it's like career events, career fairs, or even networking events?
Yeah. So the important thing to know is that nearly most employers at this point in 2025 have both a digital strategy and a physical strategy for how they do their recruiting. They don't tend to just do one or the other. They tend to have a mix of the two. What's hard for students is that you don't necessarily know if their physical strategy will land them on your campus specifically or not. So for all students, you should definitely pay attention to all of their virtual events. And again, you can just go to the events page on Handshake to see both what events are being hosted by your career center, what events are being hosted by employers that might be virtual, and what events might be hosted by your career center but are in person with employers. Okay, so there's kind of like this Venn diagram of all three of those options, and you want to make sure that you know what those are and which ones you're interested in. Obviously, RSVP to them. Employers are almost always at this point going to use technology like Handshake to go as wide as possible. They know that talent is at many, many schools, and they are not able to visit literally hundreds of schools. Their recruiting teams are often small. Some of the biggest companies in the world actually don't have recruiting teams that are larger than like 20, 25 people, but they could be recruiting for thousands of students. So they can't hit up hundreds and hundreds of schools. So they're going to use a digital method to start to begin a relationship with you or to reach out to you. So you should be looking for Events, as I've mentioned, I want to be more specific here. If you RSVP for an event, they pay attention to who actually shows up for that event. So show up. It's in your favor. If you go to a virtual event, have your camera on. They mark that. They pay attention to that. I was literally just talking to a major hospitality employer yesterday who was like, "Oh, you should definitely tell students. We pay attention to who RSVPs, who actually comes, who turns on their camera, who asks good questions during the event, who follows up with a thank you. These are all things that can help you stand out. What they define it as from an employer perspective is a student who's showing high intent. To them, that signals this student is actually serious about my company. So maybe I should invest more time in this student as well. That's for virtual events. For on-campus events, you're going to see some employers come to campus as well. Make the most of that time. Make sure to show up a little bit early. Walk right up to the front of the room. Introduce yourself. Shake their hand. Ask good questions that show that you've done a little bit of research about the company, about the role, things like that. Make sure to follow up again with a thank you afterward. These are all little things. They might not always respond, but they're paying attention to all of that. So that's one huge piece of it. I would also note that many employers will post on the feed, on the Handshake feed, and that's another really easy, lightweight way for you to engage with employers that can feel more natural, can be more authentic, can be more raw. We have employers all the time that both take feedback from students and also answer real questions from students on the feed as well. So just know that that's another way for you to represent yourself too. And then lastly, employers are messaging you. I know many of you get messages from employers. I know many of you ignore those messages as well. That's fine if you're not interested, but if you are interested, I would recommend that you pay attention to that and you actually respond to some of those messages. Again, these recruiters are getting thousands of applicants, so sometimes they can't respond to you, but they're often paying attention to those pieces too. So it's in your best interest to just try.
I love that. And we were just talking right before this webinar started, and you touched on it, but sometimes it's the little things that make the most difference. And things like, you if you're at a in-person event, like sitting at the front. When I was in school, I would always sit at the back. And then I graduated, and the more and more I attended career fairs, and I was like, oh, it makes such a big difference sitting at the front, and you get to actually talk to someone. You get to actually talk with the recruiter that's there. So you shared a lot with some of the tips. Are you able to share a couple more things that people should know as they start to dive into these career fairs and even potentially interviews over the next like few weeks of fall? What would you recommend? Questions to potentially ask, things like that.
Yeah. So let me actually start with you. I had mentioned networking. You had also mentioned networking. Networking is not just about like making a LinkedIn connection. It's not just about getting a business card. It's true networking is not transactional. True networking is actually building a relationship and it's getting to know somebody. And so there are a few different ways that you can do this. And if you are someone who's like, the word networking sounds terrible, I do not want to go to a networking event, it sounds miserable, don't go to a networking event. You can do networking one-on-one. You can do it your way. It is totally fine to not be in large scale spaces to do that. So if you are comfortable with going to large events, do it. If you are not, this message is for you. Use the people search on Handshake, and you can search for employers and students, and you can search by name, you could search by school, you could search by student org, you could search by major, you could search by pretty much anything. And you can find students both at your alma mater and at other Handshake schools that have that connection or have that information. And you could reach out to them with a quick DM and just introduce yourself and ask for a little bit of their time, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of their time to jump on the phone and ask them a few questions. Maybe they interned at a place that you would love to intern and you would love to ask them questions about what that experience was actually like. Or you would love their advice on whether or not they're actually looking for someone with your profile or background, or what was the interview process like to get in there. These are all the types of questions that you can ask when you are doing an informational interview with somebody and you're both taking an interest in them, but you're also learning something for yourself that's going to be helpful in your job search process. And that's all networking is. Like, that's it. It's just taking an interest in someone else and asking thoughtful questions. So definitely do that. That's a really, really key piece to all of this. When you get to the interview portion of your job search, it's really important that you do more research than you probably think is necessary. And because AI is available these days, employers do have a higher expectation that you should know more about them and about their role and about the job. And and so use that to your advantage. Use Claude, use ChatGPT, use the tools that are available to you to do your research about the company, about the industry that it sits in, about emerging trends and issues, and about the role. Okay, you're not going to know everything, but that will give you a much better foundation. I would also, my other tip is you should also be asking your Gen AI friend what are some of the most common sort of phrases or
Mm.
jargon is used in this industry or within this company so that you can translate some of your experience using some of the language that they use, right? So, for example, if you worked in a place where you refer to folks as your customers, but you're now applying and interviewing at a place where they refer to them as their clients, making that small switch from customer to client makes it sound like you're a little bit more resonant with a company that you are trying to apply to. Okay. So it's like all of these little things add up to making you sound like you've done your research, you know them, you understand them, you can talk shop with them. All of that can help you stand out in this process.
Love that. And I'm also starting to see some questions related to this. And maybe, Christine, you can touch a little bit on this. But let's break it down, starting with networking, because to your point, such an important piece of just
Mhm.
starting the career process.
Mhm.
What are some common mistakes that you see people make, especially when they're either reaching out to someone to like try and make that connection, or even like trying to find some time?
Asking for a job or an internship. It's probably that's the biggest mistake, right? So, for example, Min, you and I just meet or somebody introduces us, and I'm like, Min, it's so nice to meet you. I see that you work at Handshake. I've always wanted to work at Handshake. Do you think you could refer me?
Mm,
Right? That's super
hmm
awkward. You're like, I don't know who you are. I'm not vouching for you. Why would I put my name behind you? Right? Like, I mean, just think
hmm
about it logically. I know you all want an internship. I know you want a job. People do want to help you, but they kind of have to feel like they know you a little bit first before they can really do that. So don't be so overly aggressive that people are like, whoa, hold back. I'm not sure about you, right? Like that's not the vibe that you're trying to give off. So don't ask for a job or an internship. Ask for advice. People are more than happy to give advice. Ask about their experience. People love to talk about themselves, generally speaking. Like that is all a great way to build the relationship. Don't think of networking as transactional. It's not like I meet you, you help me, we're done. Think of it as like something that you're building over time. And in the grand scheme of your life, it will end up equaling out. You will help them, they will help you. It'll be fantastic, but it's not like tit for tat. So I think that's an
Yeah.
important piece to keep in mind. And then the last thing is, I know some of you are like, but I've reached out to people and they don't respond. It is a little bit of a numbers game. People are busy. So when you reach out to somebody, I would keep this in mind. For every 10 people you reach out to, you will maybe hear back from five. That's very normal.
Mm,
For every five people you talk to, maybe you'll really hit it off with one or two. Okay.
mm,
So like manage your own expectations around what that looks like. It's not like you're going to reach out to 10 and all 10 are going to become your best friend. Like that's not happening. So just manage your expectations and keep in mind that some people are really, really busy. So they might end up responding to you a few weeks later, a few months later. You might end up reaching out to them again a few years from now and they'll respond, but right now they might not be able to. You never know what somebody is kind of in the middle of or going through. In terms of their time and their ability to actually meet with you. You also don't know how many times they might be hit up by other people.
mm,
Sometimes that might be a thing too. Like I'm happy to share, I get requests from people reaching out to me for informational interviews. I probably get a handful or so a week. I can't actually meet with all of those individuals all the time. So for me, I created a new process where I do a monthly AMA. And anybody that's like interested in learning about switching from higher education into ed tech or working at Handshake can join my group AMA format. But I can only say yes because I'm hosting
Hmm.
in a group format, right? So not everybody has necessarily taken the time or decided that that's something they want to commit to. So just understanding it from other people's perspective, I think is helpful.
Incredible. And then second to last question that I have for you, Christine. But kind of building on that, would you recommend people potentially, reaching out to maybe a recruiter, maybe reaching out to someone or someone directly in like the company that they're potentially looking to join?
They definitely can. I don't think that's ever necessarily a bad thing. It's more about how you reach out to somebody, right? So, let's say, for example, you were interested in Handshake. I think I actually saw somebody's question in the Q&A that was like, "Is Handshake hiring? I'd be really interested in being an engineer. This one's for you." Okay, so if you were interested in Handshake, 100%, find some engineers at Handshake and reach out and see if you can do an informational interview with them. Find out what their experience is. Tell them you're interested and you would love to know what that looks like. Um, you don't spam everybody. Like we have over 200 engineers at Handshake. It's probably best to not email all 200 of them, right? I wouldn't do that, but I would selectively choose a few people and make sure that your message to them is personalized. Hey, BJ, I reached out to you because you graduated from my alma mater and I'm actually really interested in this too. Would you be willing to like chat with me? Or um, Marta, I reached out to you because I'm a female engineer and I see that you are and you've really advanced, and I'd be really interested in what that experience has been like for you, both at other companies and at Handshake, right? Like find the thing that helps you connect to that particular person. So it also doesn't just feel like a really random cold email, but one that you've actually put thought into.
Big plus on the personalization because if, for instance, for example, if me and Christine are on the same team and we get the same exact message from the same person, we will share and we will know
We
that.
sure do.
So it is big, 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 big plus on the personalization. And make it seem like I think ultimately, Christine, and if I'm able to sum it up, it's like make it seem like you put the time in and like
Yeah.
you have the genuine interest in whoever you're reaching out to. Um, Cool. Okay. I want to do one final question before we jump into our product demo and have some time for Q&A at the end. Any final words of advice or encouragement for all the students here that have joined us to round out before we jump into a product demo?
Sure. I will leave you with this. Your first job is not your forever job. That applies to your internship too. I know that things feel stressful right now. I know that you've probably been reading the news. You see how competitive things are. The job landscape seems a little chaotic at the moment. You're not really sure how Gen AI is going to impact your roles or your positions or the sectors that you might be going into. I totally understand that. That is all very real, very valid. But I also want you to just like keep perspective around the fact that this first job is not your forever job. Your first job doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to help you gain some skills so that you can get your second job, and help you pay your bills so you can pay back your loans, right? So like keep managing those expectations a little bit as you go into this process. That will help you stay level-headed. It will help you stay positive if and when you encounter rejection or you get ghosted, all very normal parts of the process. So I'll keep it at that for now, but happy to answer other questions when we get to the Q&A.
I love that. We have a bunch of Q&A, so I want to make sure we have plenty of time for that. Christine, thank you so much for joining for this session. Christine will be back once we jump into our Q&A section. So right now we are going to jump into some Handshake specifics. I know there were some questions in the Q&A of, how can I start to stand out on Handshake, things like that. So I'll go through and show you all some of the easiest things that you can do to get the most out of to start to set yourself up for success this fall recruitment season. So let me share my screen and we will jump into it. Here we go. Okay. So this is what you would normally see when you log into Handshake. This is our feed view. So if you all are not familiar, our feed is a really great place to kind of see content from employers, potentially content from other students related to your major, even within your same school. It's a really great place to just kind of spend some time and peek around and see kind of what's happening. So first, we are actually going to start with your profile. So to access that, you'll click on this. Ooh, I have 100 notifications. I need to take care of that. So you'll click on this and access your profile here. So your profile is essentially a quick snapshot of who you are on Handshake. When you're kind of going through your profile, one of the things that I always recommend to students is maybe set a recurring reminder to yourself to update your profile every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, whatever ultimately cadence makes the most sense for you. But the biggest intention of that is to try and keep this as updated as possible because one, employers do take a look at your profile, and you want to make sure that when that person does take a look, a recruiter, maybe someone that is in a role that you're interested in, your profile is up to date and it's showcasing the best kind of best version and most up-to-date version of yourself. The biggest thing that I'll focus on whenever we're going through the profile is one, make sure you're filling out you're looking for. This is especially important. Obviously, if you're an upperclassman looking to start to get an internship or maybe that full-time job, but also I would start to, even if you're a freshman or sophomore, I would recommend also highlighting this because one, it indicates to anyone looking at your profile, so whether it be an employer, it indicates and gives them an insight into ultimately what stage of the job search process you're at, maybe what you're interested in. Maybe you're not looking for a full-time job, but you're really more looking for an internship or a campus job. This is a really easy and quick way to indicate that. On top of that, it also allows us on the Handshakes end to kind of recommend jobs, events, um, things like that, that is more relevant to ultimately what you're trying to get out of the platform. So you fill out things like roles, industries, location. Maybe there's several cities that you're interested in working in. You can add that here. And then, like I said, you can indicate whether or not you're looking for that full-time job, a part-time job, an internship, or campus job. Again, really great way to just kind of set that initial intention of here's what I'm looking for, here's what I'm going to be more interested in. And that obviously saves you time, but also helps the employers making sure that they reach out to you with a position that ultimately fits what you're looking for. Next is the summary, a super small and very quick addition, but there's a little bit of space to share about yourself, what you're looking for, what makes you a good candidate. Maybe if you don't have a bunch of experience, maybe share a little bit of insight into some of the volunteer work that you're doing, or maybe roles and companies that you're interested in speaking with. So add a quick summary. I highly recommend you all do that. And then kind of going through the rest of the profile, and this is especially as you are racking up that experience, as you're making your way through the fall semester, finishing up projects, finishing up courses, certifications, whatever the case may be, add your skills. This is such a important place. And so this is one of the things that I would recommend you constantly update when you're completing a project, when you're finishing up that internship, or when you're in that internship. Add skills that you picked up. So maybe maybe you were leading the group in your group project for a class. Feel free to add leadership. That is a great example of showcasing leadership and showcasing that you're adept at that skill. So skills there, work experience, especially for those that are maybe underclassmen, your freshman, your sophomore. One, no one is expecting you to have 10 years of experience. And although sometimes it might seem like that, the general gist of it is that we understand that, employers understand that you all are freshmen, sophomore, entering college, and a lot of the times don't have exact work experience. So in lieu of that, if you don't have that, I would recommend maybe using this as a space to add your volunteer experience that you might have. Any experience, whether it's, maybe you worked as a cashier over the summer, 100% add that in here because that all ultimately contributes to rounding out your profile and really showcasing what you have to offer and what you can offer to these employers. And then kind of at the bottom here, you'll have courses, organizations, projects. As you're joining clubs, as you're joining fraternities, sororities, um, merit-based clubs, whatever the case may be, add them here. As you're completing courses, make sure you make indicate that you're adding them here. And super important, but projects. Me as an advertising major, a lot of my work whenever I was in school was all projects based. So having something like this would have been amazing to be able to showcase off all the incredible work that I've done and am doing. And so yeah, I would recommend spend some time, fill out your profile, and one quick tip. Christine mentioned this, but and I also touched on this, but one of the things that is so important and it seems very minimal, but you have no idea how important and how valuable it is. But if you don't already, go to your Handshake profile and add a profile picture. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. It doesn't need to be anything super polished. If you don't have a headshot right now, my tip is ask a friend to go out to a corner of campus that is very bright and is would be great for a picture, and take a picture on your phone and use that as your profile picture. And then as you're going through the fall semester, going through career fairs and employer fairs, things like that. Um, some of these may have resources for you to actually get a professional headshot. I would also recommend looking into your career services. I know some career services offer that as a resource as well. But super small thing that you can do is just one, add a profile picture. Um, I'll go through this as this is a relatively newer feature of our profile, if it will load, is profile viewer. So now you can actually see on web and on mobile how many people have viewed your profile over time, who has viewed it. And this is a great way to kind of see if you maybe have an employer that has taken a look at your profile, things like that. So quick kind of final things on the profile is one, we have our share button here. Once you get your profile in a good space and you're gearing up for potentially career fairs, you're gearing up for to reach out to potential connections for networking opportunities, things like that. We've tried to make it easy for you all to share your profile. So there's three options here. One is copy profile link. Super simple, super straightforward. Click this and it's copied, and you can paste it in an email and say, here's my Handshake profile for more info. Um, so you can add it to your resume, your digital resume. You can add it to even your LinkedIn, things like that. You can also share via email. By clicking this, it'll just pull up your local email application, and it'll have something generated. And one of my favorite features is being able to create an email signature. So we are trying to be able to make this as easy as possible. So if you click that, you'll see this here. You see your profile picture, your name, and a link to your profile and Handshake. All you have to do is copy this email signature, go to your Gmail, go to Yahoo, whatever you end up using, and be able to paste it in your signature. And you have a very well built out, very professional looking email signature that links directly to your Handshake profile. So that's your profile. One final thing that I'll call out is you can also upload documents. So one of big use cases for this is you can also upload resumes. And this is extremely helpful, especially when you're going through and starting to apply for jobs. You can ultimately upload multiple versions. So maybe you have one for a specific industry, maybe you have one that is tailored to a different industry. You can upload both, name them, and then be able to select which one you want to use, especially when you're applying for the job. And then last but not least is I would recommend you all going through and adding your personal email. This is a really great way to one ensure that you don't lose access to Handshake, but also two, it makes sure that anything that you might potentially miss, it's also going to your personal email, and not only being reliant on your school email. That's your profile. I'll go through kind of two tabs before we jump into a quick Q&A. Is one, I'll call out the jobs tab. I know this is one that is a very big deal because a lot of you all are potentially starting to look for jobs, looking for internships, things like that. So your jobs tab will hold and be the hub for jobs here on Handshake. By default, it'll kind of start to show you jobs that are based on things like your major, things like you're looking for, as I mentioned before. So a lot of the jobs that you see on my specific account is related to marketing. Makes sense. I was an advertising major. I'm in marketing now. So all of the jobs that we'll see is based on that. But or as you're starting to navigate this, go into your filters, and we have a pretty robust selection of filters for you all to use. So, employment type, job type, whether you're looking for a full-time internship, things like that. Location is a big one. This is something that gets brought up to me a lot by students is, I want to move to a specific city. How do I do that? How do I find jobs like that on Handshake? Or I want to stay at a specific city. How do I find jobs like that on Handshake? So setting the location is a really great option to be able to do that. And a really fun thing is this radius slider. So maybe you're in a position where you don't want to move too far away from home, but having a little bit of space, having a little bit of private space for yourself is something that you're also valuing. Maybe you do 20 miles away from wherever your hometown is. And that'll help ensure that you get kind of jobs that are within that 20-mile radius, or maybe you want to completely move to a different city. Feel free to add that in here. And then there's like more filters around like pay, benefits. You can also like start to select maybe which benefits you're looking for, especially as you're like thinking about that full-time job. Maybe things like a signing bonus is important to you. Select that and then apply it to the filter. And then we also have filters for on-site, remote, or hybrid. Um, Qualifications, starting off, I would recommend you all just select match all. And this just is a catch-all to just make sure that jobs are relevant to one, your major, your school year, your degree level, graduation date, things like that. And then you can also then go down and search up specific employers, employee or employees in industries. For all of my international folks, we don't forget you all. And we want to make sure that we are trying to support you all as much as possible. So there's also a work authorization setting here. So whichever is most relevant to your current situation or whatever you're looking for, we have a full work authorization here for you all to select. And then my last plug for this Handshake 101 is events. So Christine mentioned there's going to be a lot of career fairs and events happening throughout the fall semester. Go to events. This will be your hub for events. You can then start to filter by relevance or date. You can even start to see if specific employers are maybe showing up at your campus or even virtual. Date is a really good one. I would always recommend you starting with this is maybe there's certain days of the week that you know that you're going to be more free. Maybe you have a bunch of morning classes, so you'll only be available in the afternoon. Or you want to start to see like upcoming events in the next 30 days. Use this to just really hone in on the events that are going to be available. And then last but not least is the medium. Christine mentioned this, but there's going to be tons of virtual, there's going to be tons of in person. By default, we're going to show you both, but if there's a specific like medium that you prefer, maybe you want to start off virtual just because you're exploring, hit virtual and hit view results. So that will kind of conclude our quick product demo. Final note before we bring Christine back for Q&A that I want to make is that this fall, we are going to, here we go. Quick announcement. So this fall, we are giving away a total of $30,000 to 33 lucky students. You guys heard that right. It is $30,000 to 33, or a total of $30,000 to 33 lucky students. We're going big, and ultimately you can win big by sharing. So get real with us, share posts on the Handshake feed with a back to school highlight. For more information, click the link that one of my teammates is now sharing in the chat. And with that, Christine, can I ask you, can I get you to come back on?
Yes, I'm here. I've been answering questions live in the
Oh,
chat.
I love it. I love it. I love
Or in
it.
the Q&A, I should say.
I love it. But yes, exciting to have Christine back, and we'll go into some Q&As. Let me pull this up and try and tackle some of the ones that you haven't had a chance to get through.
Yes. And Min,
Uh,
actually, there were two that I personally flagged that I could answer
mm,
live. Can I start with those? And then feel free to
yes,
scroll
yes,
through yourself
please.
to like find more. Um, Samantha asks a really good question because I think this is going to start coming up more and more for more candidates. So I want to get in front of this one. She says, I'm in the process of interviewing for a newer AI company. They're inviting me to do an interview with an AI assistant. I've never heard of this before. So I searched them up and checked out reviews. It looks legit, but I'm still hesitant. Should I do the interview? Samantha, you are asking all the right questions. So glad you brought this up. Yes. If they seem like a legitimate company, definitely do the interview. So there are more and more companies, especially if you are interviewing for an AI company, who are now testing and experimenting with like AI interviewers, AI agents, AI assistants, as you've mentioned, that are going to do sort of a form of an interview. I literally personally last night stayed up till nearly midnight helping to review a whole bunch of AI interviews and resumes from students who had applied to some of the fellowship positions through Handshake AI. And so my message to you is, yeah, if it's a legit company, definitely do the interview. It's great practice. You're going to see more employers starting to use stuff like this, so you should get comfortable with it. And let me give you a few tips because I watched a lot of interviews last night, and there are definitely some mistakes that people are making. Okay. All right. Mistake number one, not wearing a shirt. Don't do that. You should wear a shirt, be dressed. Okay. Seems basic, but you'd be surprised. Some of your peers are out there doing interviews without shirts. Just because it's an AI assistant does not mean that a real human is not also taking a look at your interview. So be dressed as a normal interview. Two, maybe keep your pets aside in another room. We had a few candidates that had their animals. One actually had a bird on their shoulder. I wouldn't recommend it. They had great answers, but still, perhaps keep your pets in another room. Three, make sure that you treat the AI interview like an actual interview with a person because a real human may actually also be reviewing this AI interview. Usually, the AI interview is just to give recruiters or the hiring manager more information before they review you or before they might actually want to talk to you. So treat it as a real interview. Don't treat it as just like you're talking to ChatGPT and no one's gonna see it. So those are some of my tips for you if you're doing an AI interview. It is becoming more common, so just be aware.
Love that. Okay, I was able to pick out a question
Sounds
while you're
good.
going through that. So this one is from an anonymous person, but they were wondering, I am worried that I need to get as much experience as I can, and I've been applying to internships simply for the sake of experience rather than personal
Mhm.
interest. Should I still do internships that I don't feel like I would be interested in for the sake of experience, or should I start to focus more on internships that I'm maybe truly passionate about?
Oh, gosh, I kind of want to talk to this student. I guess my
I know
question
that's
is,
such a
why
great
are you
question.
why are you not applying for internships that you're truly interested in? No, I would apply to internships that you are genuinely interested in. You'll be a stronger candidate, quite frankly, for internships where you have a real interest, you have a real passion. And I assume that you probably want a job in an area that you're actually interested in. So the internships in those areas would help to perhaps guide you towards that versus just doing an internship for experience, but then it not maybe translating or being as directly related to what you want to do full time. So I would say what I would do is I would start with your ideal internship or experience that you're most interested in. That's like the core of your circle. Start with those roles, companies, opportunities. And then essentially draw like concentric circles out from that job where it's like, okay, let's say, for example, you're really interested in um, growth marketing and you decide, okay, I'm going to go after growth marketing positions. Maybe you can't find a lot of growth marketing positions in the location that you want to be in. So you're like, okay, well, maybe I'm willing to do growth marketing in a few other locations that aren't as ideal, but I'd maybe be willing to go there. Or I'm willing to maybe do content marketing or field marketing just to like get marketing experience, but within the location that I want, right? That would be like your next concentric circle. And I would just keep going out from there so that ideally there's still some kind of tie or connection to what it is that you're truly passionate about or interested in.
Love that. And whoever submitted this question, please feel free to reach out to me, Christine, anyone on the Handshake team. That's such a fantastic question. Okay, we have 1 minute, Christine. Last
Sure.
question for you. We have a lot
Okay.
of Q&A, so I picked out one question. How do I work up? This is from Jeff. So, how do I work up the courage to begin my efforts of networking? I find it intimidating, and I think this is a universal experience for everyone, really.
For sure. Jeff, start small. Start with like one person, two people, and set a goal for yourself. Your goal doesn't have to be, I'm having all of these conversations right now. Your goal could be, I need to be able by the end of this week to identify 10 people that I'm willing to reach out to. Next goal, I'm going to actually reach out to those 10 people. Anybody that responds to me, I will set up the call. Do practice with someone if you need to. Sometimes it just helps to like talk it out with someone. Like, hey, these are the questions I was planning on asking these people. Are these good? Do you recommend something else? You could also use AI to help you with that, right? Like feed your questions and your thoughts into AI and be like, help me refine for this person based on their experience or their LinkedIn or their Handshake profile, things like that. So I would do all of that type of prep so that you just feel a little bit more comfortable and go easy on yourself. Remember, it's just like normal conversation, just chit-chatting with somebody. And that's it. Your only goal in that conversation is to get advice.
Love that.
So, and I will say there's so many questions in here. If you did not get a chance for me to answer your question, I also have career planning office hours next week. So come to that as well. Hold on, I'll look at my calendar. I will tell you when that is. It is next Tuesday, the 26th. And it is from 11 to 12 p.m. Pacific time. 11 to 12 Pacific time. I am here in SF. So 11 to 12 next Tuesday for my career planning office hours. And it's pretty much literally like an office hour. Open Q&A. You ask your questions, I answer. So happy to see many of you there.
Amazing. Great. Thank you so much, one, Christine, for joining us. And more importantly, thank you to every one of you all for joining us on our webinar today. Hopefully, this was helpful. Again, we have a bunch of other webinars happening throughout the fall. So we're going to try to answer during the entire fall semester as many questions as we can. And ultimately, the Handshake team is here to support you in this navigating your career journey, navigating the semester. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you all at the next session. Bye,
Awesome.
everyone.
Bye all.